Marvel plans to recast the X-Men and eventually Tony Stark after Avengers Secret Wars. But reboot is a scary word, says Kevin Feige. I've seen people lose their minds over this news. So I thought we'd go through it and I'd give you my thoughts. Even though the article is explicitly saying they're going to recast the X-Men and we're going to get an all-new Tony Stark, I personally don't think they'll go that far. So let's go through the article and I'll explain why. The article talked a bit about past movies that we've had up until this point, and now it says in future films, however, X-Men characters who appeared in previous movies will be played by new actors, along with mutants making their big screen debut. I'm fine with that. If the plan is to continue on with the X-Men for the next 10 years, we're going to need a new, younger cast. Now, Kevin Feige says, we're utilizing that story not just to round out the other stories we've been telling post-Endgame, just as importantly. And you can look at the Secret Wars comics for where that takes you. It very much sets us up for the future. Endgame literally was about the endings. Secret Wars is about beginnings. But Feige was also careful not to characterize the changes as a reboot. Instead, the executive said Secret Wars will serve as a reset for the MCU. Now the question is, what does Feige mean when he says reboot and reset? Well, when you're talking about a reboot in the context of movies, we can look at Planet of the Apes as an excellent example. You have the Charlton Heston, the old school Planet of the Apes movies, and you have the reboot. You have the Matt Reeves Planet of the Apes movies, which is a reboot. Completely different timelines, completely different, right? Same franchise, but they're separate. Now, when you're talking about a reset, you're not detaching from the existing timeline and starting brand new. You're just resetting what you have already. So now that we have that understood, let's continue reading what he says. Reboot is a scary word, he said. Reboot can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Reset, singular timeline. We're thinking along those lines. Later, he added, X-Men is where that will happen next. I really like what I'm hearing here. Reset to a singular timeline. I think things have gotten a bit too messy with the multiverse and all these different timelines. Let's bring things back and start telling a linear story again, and then maybe we can branch out again in the future. Right now, there's just way too many possibilities. If a character dies, they can bring him back from a different timeline or bring him back from a different universe, and so there's no consequences for anything, and there are loopholes for everything. There's no real weight to anything because nothing really matters anymore, and if you bring it back to a singular timeline where consequences matter, I think that's a good move. Now, as we move on, I want you to keep this in mind. Remember, he doesn't want to reboot. He wants to reset. So he doesn't want to start from scratch. Now, check this out. Even more intriguingly, Feige also indicated that other Marvel characters will eventually be recast, including its most iconic roles like Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. He pointed to many other major film franchises that have done the same thing multiple times over. Amy Pascal and David Heyman are now searching for a new James Bond, Feige says, referring to the producers of Amazon MGM's upcoming Bond film. David Cornsweet, the new Superman, he was awesome. That will always be the case. Feige acknowledged that stars who've retired their original MCU roles like Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans have made it difficult to imagine anyone else in their character's shoes, but it isn't an impossible task. Feige says, I think it's hard for anybody to do that when an actor has done such a great role, he said. How are they going to ever replace Sean Connery as James Bond, right? Well, it happened. And that's his argument. He said, I think there is more fun to be had with both of those characters, but we'll see where. Now, I personally don't think he's going to recast Tony Stark. Number one, he's not doing a reboot, which means legacy matters. He's doing a reset. They're keeping the framework there on purpose. Two, you had an opportunity to recast a major character and you didn't do it. Chadwick Boseman, as T'Challa, Black Panther. Now, while I understand why you didn't want to recast him, there were a lot of fans who wanted him to be recast in order to continue the character. They wanted to see T'Challa as Black Panther, but you didn't do it because there's a certain integrity within the MCU. Chadwick Boseman is T'Challa. If you cast somebody else, that breaks immersion because wait, he doesn't look like T'Challa anymore. And so what did you do? What did Marvel do? Instead of recasting T'Challa, they found another way. His son. Spoilers for Wakanda Forever, by the way, if you haven't seen that movie. They opened up the door to having T'Challa as Black Panther in the future without having to recast Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman is still the Black Panther. He is still his T'Challa. But he named his son T'Challa. So now you can have a T'Challa Black Panther again in the future. Now, let's bring things back to Iron Man. They're not going to recast Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. What they most likely will do is they'll have somebody else play Iron Man. Could be an Iron Man from a different universe, but it's not going to be Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark, his Iron Man, is going to be untouched. I would honestly be surprised if they even use the Tony Stark name in the future. You could get away with calling somebody else Iron Man, but Tony Stark, that name is so synonymous with Robert Downey Jr. If you're calling somebody else Tony Stark, I don't know if fans are not gonna be happy, man. Robert Downey Jr. set the bar so high. He was perfect for that character. I highly doubt anybody is going to come close. And so they're not going to want to give you a cheap imitation. They're going to have to redefine the character. The only way I see it working, if they want to use the name Tony Stark, is to get the kid from Iron Man 3 to come back. From some other universe, something happened. He is Tony Stark somehow in that universe. And he comes back and he's Tony Stark Iron Man. That's the only way I can see fans being slightly okay with them continuing on with the Tony Stark name. And that's why, if they want to continue on with these characters, they'll continue on with Iron Man and Captain America rather than Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. But we'll see. They might find the perfect guy for the role, and I might be wrong. And if they decide to do that, if they decide to have somebody else play Tony Stark, I'll be really interested in seeing how they pull that off. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about all this. What do you guys think about the reboot, the recasting? Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.